are back. Another edition of Dynamics on the Hardwood. I'm Mazzi. That's Live Zone. What's going on today, Live Zone? How you feeling? What's good?
So the first thing that we're going to be talking about is the New York Knicks and the Philadelphia 76ers additions to their team. Do we think that they are going to be in the same conversation as the Boston Celtics with the lineups that they got right now?
Yeah, well, looking at this past season with the Boston Celtics, okay, they won the Eastern Conference by 15 games. There was nobody even close, but the rest of the Eastern Conference was plagued with injury. Now, if you take into account the injuries, maybe those teams that finished 15 and more behind them are more around the 8 to 10 to 12 range. Okay, great. We'll leave it at that. With the additions to the Philadelphia 76ers in particular, I believe that race for the top spot in the Eastern Conference is neck and neck, and the Celtics have to play as good of a season as they played this past season to be in the conversation for 1 and 2 with Philly. I think Philly stacked their lineup up. Caleb Martin, Paul George, Kelly Oubre, Andre Drummond, Joel Embiid, of course, Tyrese Maxey, Eric Gordon, and star in the making, I believe, to watch out for Jared McCann from Duke. Made a name for himself in the March Madness run. Great kid, positive vibes. Happy for him. Want to see what he does going forward. As for the Knicks, I don't necessarily think they're moves to this point have elevated them to that conversation of 1 and 2 with the Celtics and the 76ers. I think it's now Sixers and Celtics 1 and 2, and now it's going to be Knicks and Pacers and Orlando Magic in that conversation for 3, 4, 5. You can put Cleveland in there. I think we're going to see a lot of the same this next season from those teams, but 76ers definitely stack up well against the Celtics. I'm very nervous about them. That's if they can stay healthy. Boston had their healthy run this year. The only injury really being Kristaps Porzingis. Not too often you have as easy, if you want to put it that way, of a season as the Celtics is with no major setbacks or whatever. So I kind of expect some major setback to occur to the Celtics going forward that brings them back to the pack and they don't beat the field as aggressively as they did this past season. So, in short, it's Philly has elevated to the Celtics level, and nobody else is on that level right now in the Eastern Conference for me.
I see where you're coming from with the Philadelphia 76ers, but the thing that I'm going to point out to you is I understand that Joel Embiid was not healthy throughout last year's playoffs and everything like that, but the Nova Knicks are coming. All right, they're coming to Boston and they're knocking on their door right now. With the addition of Mikal Bridges, adding in OG Anunoby into a major contract, Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, Josh Hart, and even Dante DiVincenzo, they're looking kind of stacked as well. Yes, they're kind of hurting on the center side, but so were the Celtics this last season that happened. So for me, I'm looking at this and I'm saying if there is a team that I am scared of right now for the Boston Celtics, it is the New York Knicks. And the reason why is because you should have been scared of them last season, but they all got injured and they kind of died out to the Indiana Pacers. If they didn't die out to the Indiana Pacers, it would have been the New York Knicks versus the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. It is what it is. It didn't happen. People got hurt, and then the Celtics went off against Indiana. But the thing that I'm also looking at is I don't think anybody is on the same level of this Boston Celtics team. I know everything that's going around right now in Team USA. We'll be talking about that in a little bit. I know that we'll be talking about Jaylen Brown and his frustrations. But at the same time, this Celtics team is locked in. They are all there from last year's team, championship team. You have the finals MVP. You have a guy that should have been a finals MVP that didn't get it because he's the only one in the NBA finals for the Boston Celtics to go 30, 10, and I think it was 10. And, this team is just stacked 110%. If there is a team, I'm going to say it's the New York Knicks, but I just don't see anybody on the same level as the Boston Celtics. I'm not too high on the PG addition to Philadelphia. Paul George he's hasn't been a winner since 2013, 2014, unfortunately. Then after that, McCann is coming into, losers, straight up losers throughout the whole team. Joel Embiid couldn't get it done. Kelly Oubre couldn't get it done. Paul George couldn't get it done. Tyrese Maxey couldn't get it done. We haven't seen anything from this Philadelphia 76ers team. And even in last year's playoffs, like I said, I know that Joel Embiid wasn't 100%, but the New York Knicks made it further than the Philadelphia 76ers, and that's with one of the quote-unquote best players in the league on their team right now. So for me, I'm looking at the New York Knicks. I'm seeing all the heart they got. I can't go against the New York Knicks the same way I couldn't go against them last year, but I do think the Celtics are still the team to beat in the Eastern Conference.
Hey, you got a lot of talk about losers over there, and you're talking about the New York Knicks, correct? You're saying they're winners. I'm pretty sure they haven't been winners in a very, very, very long time themselves. I don't think Jalen Brunson's the man to get it done in that city whatsoever. And I definitely don't think they make it past the Celtics in any way, shape, or form. If they meet up with them, I'm worried about the Sixers, not necessarily about Paul George whatsoever. I believe Paul George is washed up, but the players they have around him that can put up a good amount of points on any given night and pick up his slack when he's not delivering, like it's inevitably going to happen. And when somebody else goes down, they have a stacked lineup ready to go. That's why I go with the 76ers. I think they're much deeper than the New York Knicks in a pinch as well.
I mean, the only thing that I'm looking at with the New York Knicks is that they lost Feinstein, which is their backup center, so they have to rely a lot on Mitchell Robinson. There's a hole down low in New York right now, and if Julius Randle gets hurt, it gets even shorter and shorter. So I understand where you're coming from, but at the end of the day, this team has got shooters. This team has got heart. This team is going to pound it in your face and put you on the ground, and they're going to play great defense. And that's the reason why this New York Knicks team has surprised everybody in the last few years after not going against the likes of LeBron James or not going against the likes of Kevin Durant or Donovan Mitchell. It's because they went after guys that they could build a team around right now. And with adding Mikal Bridges on top of that, which is he's a deep three-point shooter, I'm liking the chances for the New York Knicks.
We'll have to see. Only time will tell. Next season, still a little bit of ways away, but we do have the Olympic basketball team coming up, and some controversy going on with that Olympic basketball team, men's USA basketball team to be exact. Livezone, Jaylen Brown gets snubbed. Seems like he always has to deal with this adversity. There's three Celtics already on the team, or two previously, and now they added a third now, not Jaylen Brown. What is going on in the Celtics locker room? What are you making of this? Is this creating a divide that's unnecessary for the Celtics? What does Jaylen Brown deserve to be in that spot?
110%. Jaylen Brown is your finals MVP, for God's sake. He is the guy right now that he should have been a first pick on this team instead of the likes of a Devin Booker or instead of the likes of like a Joel Embiid that's not shouldn't even be part of Team USA in my opinion because he's not from here. But at the end of the day, I understand where they're going with this. They Jaylen Brown, he's not a fan of Nike whatsoever. When Kyrie Irving got snubbed from Nike and got taken away from Nike, Jaylen Brown had a lot to say about it. So Jaylen Brown, his reaction wasn't towards his teammates, but more towards Nike because he thinks that Nike had a large say in not bringing him over to Team USA. So I understand why he's mad. But the other thing that I do want to talk about before I even get into that is I want to talk about why Kawhi Leonard decided to join the team and then leave as soon as they were about to play basketball. I don't understand it. I see like the Clippers were the ones that came up and said, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't do this." But Kawhi, as a player, he was just like, "Yeah, sure. I mean, I won't play. That's fine." Like I don't understand that from Kawhi Leonard, because if it was me, I would be like. No, I'm playing for my country in the Team Olympics. That's just how it is. So I don't understand why Kawhi was the one to be like, I'm just not going to play with you guys. I'm sorry. I came here to take a photo shoot, but that's about it. So I don't understand that. But with Jaylen Brown, I do think that he should be on the team over the likes of a Devin Booker, over the likes of a Derek White, even over the likes of a Drew Holiday. I don't understand why he's not there. Like I said, probably has a lot to do with Nike, but the thing that he tweeted out today is since when does Nike care about ethics? So Nike is claiming that they had nothing to do with it, but then after that, Jaylen Brown came back with that. So I don't like bringing like race and all that stuff into sports at all. I think that is one of the dumbest things that you could do. You're ruining the sport by bringing politics into it. But I understand where Jaylen Brown is coming from. I understand why Jaylen Brown is heated at this. And honestly, if I was him, I would I would be trying to sue Nike right now if that's the case that Nike had a large say in him not being on Team USA.
Yeah, it's it's an interesting topic to discuss. There's a lot of parts to it. As for Jaylen Brown, he has every right to feel however he wants to feel about it and respond however he wants to feel about it. If it was me personally, and it was a team I was trying to make and wanted to make it to, then yes, I would feel some type of way. If I really didn't feel any type of way about making that team or not, then I don't think it's much to respond about. The fact of the matter is, Jaylen Brown is better than Devin Booker. So, if you were really trying to make the best overall team that you could possibly do, and you weren't trying to politic it, and there wasn't any money involved or favors involved or back scratches involved, you would pick the best players for the team. Now, does it look great if 4 out of the 5 starters for the Celtics are Celtics? I mean, for the USA men's basketball team are Celtics? Probably not. They want to include other markets and get the most viewership. Understandably, gets the most bucks. So, if I was Jaylen Brown, I'd be pissed for the politic aspect of it too, because they're just snubbing him because Jason Tatum's a better face. They think Derek White is for that position that they're bringing him into will play better, and then Drew Holiday they think is just good at that position as well. And then you got LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and Joel Embiid. So you can't really argue over those players as well. Is really politics, like you said. So Jaylen Brown has every right to be mad. What I don't like about the politics side about this, though, is something that I'm starting to see could be the reason they are doing this is to create some divide because they do see how powerful the Celtics team is about to be, and they don't want necessarily them to be that great, especially with LeBron James and his son playing in LA and trying to get that ticket price up. So, a lot of money involved, a lot of different aspects involved. All around, I think the whole situation is a bunch of BS. And the Celtics, with their mindset and their head coach, shout out Joe Mazzulla, okay? His mindset, his laser focus, and his way to stay in the moment until the job's done and then go to the next job is the reason why the Celtics locker room will be fine from all of this. The team will be fine and they will come back next season ready with vengeance again. They're going to use it as fuel. I truthfully, I really think they're all boys at the end of the day. It's the Boston team. It's the Boston city. It's the Boston faithful. It's the way we are. So end of the day, I just, one last thing to point out. Don't like how Jason Tatum responded to the reporters. I don't know how to feel about it. It was a little all over the place. I think he was thrown off guard by the question himself. So that's the only concern I have is if Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, out of everybody in the locker room, feel some type of way towards each other, then the whole ship can go crashing down without a question. I don't think it'll affect Holiday, Derek White, or Horford in any way. I don't think anybody has animosity that way whatsoever. I think they're stoked for their teammates to get there. But the Tatum and Brown dynamic, if that boils into a resentment or revenge-filled fuel where they're competing against each other rather than against the other team together, that's when the problem will arise.
Yeah, and two more things I do want to bring up because, nobody's really talking about it because of the politics side that is getting brought in to Team USA is number one, this happened in the 1990s. It almost happened with Michael Jordan when they made the Dream Team. They almost left him out because Jordan and Nike were not together at the time, and Jordan did not want to wear anything Nike or Adidas, and he even covered it up with the flag at the ceremony as well. So that's another thing that I had to put in there. Another person that got left out, in the 90s was also Isaiah Thomas because a lot of players didn't really like him and didn't like the way that he played on the court during the NBA season. So they said it's either him or it's us, and Michael Jordan was one of those players. So that's another thing that I wanted to bring up. That this is really the second time that this has happened now with the NBA and with Team Olympics and Team USA. Another thing that I do want to add in is that maybe after all, this is going to be a blessing in disguise because when Michael Jordan went to Team USA during the Dream Team and all that, the first thing that he did was practice and learn what the other players were doing so he could stop it on the court. So, not having all five of your starters in Boston on the Team USA Olympics thing could also be a blessing in disguise because now Jaylen Brown is working in the gym and Kristaps is working in the gym. I don't know if he's playing for his team this year, but and now they don't know what Jaylen Brown and Kristaps are going to bring to the table. They know what Tatum's going to bring, they know what Drew's going to bring, and they know what Derek White's going to bring. But those two key guys that are not part of that team right now could be a blessing in disguise for the NBA next year.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I love that perspective. That's a great tidbit of historical fact as well. People need to realize that I hate getting more political, but it's the same level as the Grammys, man. It's not, it's a population contest, and then what the people want, and then what the people in charge want, and then what should actually happen is fourth on the list. So, uh,
Unfortunately.
it's always going to be a tug and a struggle, no matter what we're doing, and we're never truly going to know the best unless people go head to head. If the Celtics three-peat, we'll know who's the best.
Yes, sir. And that's the thing that I'm looking at is this is the best possible way that the Boston Celtics can repeat this year is if Jaylen Brown is not on that court with LeBron James right now. So I'm liking the chances for the Boston Celtics next year because of all this stuff happening. It's just going to create a monster, especially with the way that Jaylen Brown was playing last year. He kind of took the ball and ran with it. This is just going to make it 10 times worse for a lot of teams in the NBA. So I'm not worried about it at all.
Yeah, and then one last thing on this dream team or USA men's basketball team. Sorry, not the dream team. Don't get that confused. Cut that X. Cut that. Uh, um, do you think this team will go undefeated and win the gold medal?
I don't think they'll go undefeated. The reason why is because, like I said, it's too much into the politics nowadays. It's not about team basketball. They're not playing real defense. Ever since Kobe kind of left, the Team USA has kind of been at best. So for me, I don't think they're going to go undefeated. They're not going to be like the Dream Team. They're not going to be as dominant as the Dream Team. Do I think they'll win a gold medal? Absolutely. They're coming for everybody that wrote them off in in the last Olympics and everything like that. Team USA people calling them out. Why are the stars not playing? Everything like that. Well, they're here now and they're coming and they're going to win that gold medal. I just don't think that they'll Go undefeated. Go undefeated. Go undefeated. Go. Speaking of undefeated, guess who just went 4-0 on his last four bets? This dude right here. Thanks to East Coast Sports Investors, a proud partner of the show, the Livezone Sports Show podcast. We have partnered with East Coast Sports Investors. They are the best in the business, been doing it for over 10 years, 57% win rating. They have picks daily. They're gonna get you to win. Listen, I'm 4-0 on my last four. I'm like 8 for 10 on my last 10. It's great. I love it. It's awesome. Shout out to East Coast Sports Investors. As always, thank you. Getting back to the video, as you saw, we are partnered with East Coast Sports Investors, but getting back into it, I'm here with Mazzi. We're here with Mazzi Moments, a new segment on dynamics on the hardwood. Mazzi, what we got today?
Listen, okay, we all have thought about things long and hard that we're never going to change and have no say in. Now, for me, there's a lot of different things in sports that I've thought about and wanted to change and think of how it would change the game. One thing that I'm looking at in the game of basketball these days is the end of the games around the fourth quarter. Now, everybody starts fouling. It really becomes a coach's game of when to foul, when not to foul. But for the fans, it's not really the most interesting unless it's a back and forth, make a basket, make a basket, make a basket. But if you're up 8 with a minute 15 left and they're fouling to have you miss free throws so they can get back into it, I understand the logic behind the game, but it's not entertaining. What I'm proposing is in the last 2 minutes that the team that's losing has a option to make a 4-point shot behind the line as many times as they want until they're within 2 points. Now, Lazo, I want to know what you think about this because I've got about 30 minutes strongly about this, and I think it could work.
I just don't think it can. Listen, all right, if we're talking about a 4 point line, I understand where we're going at in basketball. I understand that longer range shots are going to be counted for more eventually, and we're going to get a 4 point line in the game eventually. Maybe even make the courts a little bit larger, so therefore you can still have room for the half court and everything like that. I understand all of that. I'm all good with adding a 4 point line. I don't agree with having a 4 point line for just the losing team. I just don't think that that's beneficial in any way of basketball in any form. I think
In
if
the
you're going to
last
add a
two
four
minutes.
point line, I just feel like if you're going to add a 4 point line, you add it to both sides and it is what it is. You know what I mean? Maybe the other
Nah,
team that's winning takes a few 4 point shots and misses a few. You never know what could. I don't see what you're saying on that side.
okay, so if both teams got the 4 point line, that's fine too. But I just think you got to give some sort of chance that's not really going to happen to that team to make it interesting, rather than them just fouling and people just turning the channel on the TV or zoning out while they're at the game because it's just fouls and fouls this and foul that and free throws and free tacos. We could be getting Steph Curry pulling up at the end of games for 4 point shots and putting up 16 points in 30 seconds. You know what I'm saying? It'd be crazy.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't know. I can't see you adding it on one side and not the other. That's the problem. If you're going to take away something from the winning side of the basketball game, like if you're going to take a 10 point lead and try to cut it down more and more in less seconds as possible, maybe like a missed shot equals minus half a point or something like that. I could see something
Oh, that
like
could be
that.
cool.
I just couldn't see giving a benefit to one team and not the other. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, look at challenges in other leagues. If you win the challenge, you get another challenge. If you lose the challenge, you don't get another challenge. So that's an
But that
advantage to
doesn't.
whichever team
But
is.
but that doesn't dictate the full game. The 4 point line will dictate the full game. You know what I mean? So like if you're looking at a challenge play, that's completely different because that only comes up what maybe 3 out of 5 different times in a game, right? So like a 4 point line, chances are that's going to be used 24/7 the same way that the 3 point line is. Maybe it's not as
Yeah, but if
efficient
you
as
only
people.
make it available if you're losing, and then you get it within a certain. That's why I put in the rule of if they get it within two, there's no longer a 4 point line. So they have an ability to tie or win the game, or maybe put it within three. So the only way they can make it is the three, but then the other team can just foul and win the game. So that would add a spot of both teams have a chance. So once they're within 3 points, they're no longer allowed to make a 4 point shot. They can very well shoot it from wherever on the court, but it's only going to count as three.
I mean, in all reality, I think the game is perfect the way it is now, but that's because I'm a
I thought it
product
was
of.
perfect 10 years ago.
But that's
Okay,
because
when
I'm
there
a
was no
product of
refs
what the
calling
game
the
is.
thing every oh, you touched his hair on his arm.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the foul thing is definitely the NBA is definitely soft compared to the late '90s, early 2000s. I will say that, but I don't know. I can't see you adding a 4 point line if you're not going to add it to the full court for the full game and the full max of time during the game. You know what I
Give
mean?
the underdogs a chance. Let the Charlotte Hornets or whatever they're called, New Orleans Hornets at this point, win a championship for once in their lustrous years of losing. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm trying to do. Give the people that are down a chance. That's the Mazzi moment.
All right. With that being said, that has been all for this dynamics on the hardwood. You saw we got the partner with East Coast Sports Investors. We're working on a website. We're working on merch. We're working on sponsorships. A lot is coming, so make sure that you stay with us and make sure, as always, Mazzi, you want to wrap it up?
Stay tuned.